This part, we're calling it part 4B, will be showing you what is done in the garage, setting up the CNC and actually running the part. To do that, we have to save this one and this one, because you remember they use this common tool, the 1/4 inch. So I'll save those two to one visible toolpath. See it up here where it's checked? And I'll save that to my removable desk, and I will call it rounding toolpath, but I'm going to call it something different. I'm going to call it my rolling pin, and I have a 1/4 inch, so I have 1-4 in mill, and I'll save that. And that will take both of these. I'll close this so I can deselect and save the other tool. If you remember, this one we used a 1mm tool. It's not a ball nose, but it's a regular end mill. Again, we've got the right tool selected. It's CNC Shark Rotary Wrap. So we'll save this, and we will call it letters, rolling pin, and it's 1mm bit. So I'll save that. So those two will be on my drive so I can start in the barn. So that's the next step. Alright, what I've done is run it through my saw so that this is a square piece of stock now. It's an inch, 2 1/4 by 2 1/4. It's going to be machined down to 2 1/8 by 2 1/8. And then I'm going to make a rolling pin on it with an engraved letter system on it. Now if you look at it, what I've done is I've drawn a line from corner to corner. You should do this on all your stock. And then I actually use a V-bit that's in my drill, my rigid tool. And I chose rigid. Why? Because the batteries are guaranteed for life if you register the tool. All the tools they're similar. Some are so much better than others. But rigid has a lifetime guarantee on the tool and on the battery. So I've chosen Home Depot for that reason, for that tool. But anyway, back to what we were talking about. This is the bit. It's a V-bit, and I simply take that, put it right on that X, and then go down a little way. And if you notice it's a different color, that's because I just put a drop of either wax or oil in it, depending on what you've got. And that allows that to turn and not have so much friction. You can hear part of the machine working in the background. And the next part is I'm going to take, because this is so much larger, it won't fit in the holder as it comes. So in this box that this comes in, your precision MIDI wood turning chuck, come these 4 pieces. I'm going to mount those on those clamps so that I can see the clamping part right here. That will expand it so that it actually does work. So that's what I'll be doing next. So as soon as this is done making all that growling sound and finishing machining the part that I was working on before, I'll work on this. Alright, the first thing we have to do is remove the part that's in there. You know, they came with these 2 rods, and that changes this. See how it holds it, moves the clamp? I've designed this so I push it in, and then you notice I clear my chuck, the one over here, the rear stock versus the front stock. So I push it in a little bit and it clears it, so it makes it so it works better. Well, the stock that I'm going to be using for this one, originally I was going to make it 12 inches, but it's going to, because it sets on the surface of this, has to clamp on the surface, because obviously this will not fit in that hole. If you look at that, about the maximum size, if I go a little bit farther, you can see it's right about there. That's the maximum size. Now, the next thing is, well, how do I clamp this? Well, first thing I'm going to do is cut it off. I've got to cut it off, looks like another inch or so. back this out. Okay, right there's the maximum depth. So that's all the way back. And the piece I'm cutting is 9 inches, so that won't fit in there. So I have to clear the right at the edge of the tip, plus I've got to go to the back here. So let me measure that and mark it and see if it's going to work. All right, there with about 1/8 of an inch clearance is 11 inches. This stock I cut it at 12, so I'm going to cut another inch off this end. So I'll mark it at 11 and cut it off. I'll do that next. But before I do that, take these off. And I'm going to look at, see these holes right here? These jaws are numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. With your kit came 4 pieces that mount on these. These 4 pieces are also numbered. See, this one's stamped 1. Well, there's 1. So this will actually fit right here. And it's designed to lock right in place. Now, what they recommend doing is actually taking a little bit of grease and rubbing it down in there, and then gently putting these on. Okay? In other words, don't tighten that all the way down. So that's the next step. I'm going to do those 4. So we'll pause it right there, and I will start the first one. Okay, what I've done is I've cleaned out the holes. You just use a compressed air and blow them out, and clean off this back. Make sure this is clean as well, because the little fine wood chips will actually, these are cut so precisely that it will interfere. So you want to clean that up. And then you take your screws and your Allen wrench, which comes with a set, and it says to put a little bit of grease on the back of these, so that's what I'm doing. There's a manual. I've got it, I've shown it once already, and I'll show it again at the end of the slideshow. So you just bring these in, and you don't snug them, you just put them down so they're almost snug, or actually you could snug and then back off about 1 turn or a half a turn. Same thing here. Take it all the way down, snug it, and then back off. Now I'll speed up the the next part, because if you've done 1, you've done them all. This is 2, so 2 will go over here. Take these jaws and close them. So that will make it so they all will align up. See how they're closing shut? So that aligns them. See it? Now they're aligned correctly. So now I will tighten these down. There's 1. Okay, now you can open this up. And the reason you open it up is because, remember, I told you I had something larger than that would fit in here. If you notice, this goes out quite a ways. And that should be large enough. Once I get this cut off so it'll fit, should slide in there. All right? If it doesn't, what you do is you actually cut your end back a little bit and cut it down in a square. Or you could round it if you have a tool to do that. Right, so that's what I'm going to do. Prep this and then mount it in there. That's what we'll do next. That's our next step. Okay, it turns out that the maximum width that fits in the clamp is 2 inches. And if you remember right, I made this 2 1/8. So what I did is I took my joiner and just simply planed it off a little ways on each end. A 1/2 inch of it goes into this chuck. So then I've got to adjust this so it's tight. And that's going to change a few things. Remember, this part is, you clamp it here to get the grease out of the way. Close it up, put it over here for now. Clamp this down, and that centers it inside this clamp, okay? Now, if you remember, we have to miss this chuck. So this was my old 0 point, which comes right about here. So I'm gonna have to move this over to 0 it, put it right about here someplace. So, and I'm also gonna change this bit. So if you look at what we're doing, I'm locating the x-axis. It's got to be moved out away from the hub. And the upper where I'm pointing now is the top of the z-axis. That's at 1.99. But if you remember right, I need a 9-inch part. I need 1.5 inches. That will be, there's 1.5 inches. This will be my handle, my roller handle. I need 6 inches for here, and 1.5 inches for here, for this handle. So that puts it right about there. So if you look, right about here is my 0 and gives me enough, and it'll work all the way to the edge of this. And I usually don't work to the edge, but it'll be all right. What I'm going to do is move this over here, so this nut clears this side. That's what I'm worried about. So right there is going to be my 0 point. Because if you look at the distance from here to here, it's about 1/2 inch. So if and that's 1/2 inch from this to the edge, to the center of that. So from the center of this to the edge is 1/2. So I have to be a minimum of 1/2 inch away, and I'm 3/4 of an inch away. So I've still got a 1/4 inch tolerance, but I won't be cutting that deep. This is going to go down to 2 inch, so I'm going to take 1/8 inch off the surface, and then it's going to go down 1/2 inch here. And if you look at the length of the bit, that still keeps this nut away from that. So the next step is to change this bit. So I'm going to do that. 0, move. Okay, now that we know is the same point as the surface of this. This top is equal to this bottom. Now I'm going to change that to 1.99 because I know that top is exactly 1.99 inches to the center of this block of wood. And that's done in the setup video 1. So I'm going to set it to 1.99. Say OK, and now that it knows that's correct. I've also, when I moved it over, I lined it up with my new my new X 0 point, because it used to be over here before I put these on. So I have to go left just a little bit. All right, that's good. Now that's my new X 0, so I simply touch the X, put 0, set, OK. So now X, Y, and Z are all zeroed. So now we can start carving this.
Let me show you the software mistake I made. Right up here where it says material setup, when you do your tool pass, it's wise to check this. Keep in mind the rotary stuff is new to me too, so hopefully as I make mistakes it'll teach you not to make them. If you look, see the 0 is from the center, and if you look right here, I've changed this on this one because I came back and redid the software. The clearance right here, that's my plunge depth, which is this one, Z2. This is my clearance above the piece of wood. Well, this wood is a 2-inch diameter when it's done, so I only really need to be 1 inch above that. So let's change that to, see the Z above the height of the material? I'm going to make that 1.5 for now. And that's 1.5 from the center, and that'll keep it above. That's like 3 inches. And the material, the rough material, is only 2.25, 2.25 inch. So that's 3 inches. So that gives me clearance as that rotates and goes to the position to cut. Before, what it was doing, dropping down to 1 inch, and that plunges it right into the material. The other thing is I'm going to put a gap that's different above my home, and what that will do is allow me to do some sanding and allow me to pull that piece of wood out when it's done. And that's going to be 3.5 inches above my zero axis, which is the center. So that'll keep it up and above. Other start position for home is 0 and 0, and that's okay. So those are the changes I didn't make. I didn't check this and give me enough clearance to move without plowing into the wood, and that's the mistake you just saw.
Okay, I just calibrated it. I touched it off. I removed this. And then I will do the last part of this program.
Here it is. It's pretty much done. But the letters are backwards, so I'll be making another one. But it came out pretty good. It's a fun roller for to play with. I just have to figure out how to switch these around, and I'll do that in the next video. But we did quite a few things right. We got the handles the way I wanted. This is a little smaller than it should have been because I made a mistake. So it dug down in. You saw that in the video. But it turned out pretty good. Not bad for the first attempt. So hope you've learned something. I have. Have fun with your CNC, and thanks for watching.